So, you guys ready?
Ready.
Yes.
All right. So
we're not Beyonce, just in case you're confused.
We're not Jason
right now. Yeah.
But we'll keep up. So Scott will take us there because you've been totally awash in this stuff for a long time, right? So in '89, you joined Dun & Bradstreet. You were doing finance for a while. Then you led a product. Then you moved over to sales. So then you hit Oracle a few years later, sales, Ariba, sales, Salesforce, you were vice president, Get Satisfaction, you were the VP of sales. And then you joined DocuSign in May of 2013, so you've been there about a year. So you still have the liberty to talk freely because you're under the honeymoon, or I hope still on the honeymoon, so you can talk freely about all the mistakes you've made in marketing tech. It's a really interesting company. Why did we choose DocuSign? We reached out because they have some really unique challenges on both the consumer individual side and then the B2B side. They've got 135,000 leads created a quarter and 40,000 new users daily. And I think maybe I could just skip to that. I mean, you've got a sales team of, I was just doing the math, 25 salespeople. So I just did the math this morning. That means about 5,300 leads a quarter, 70 a day per salesperson. As a ratio for industry average, I mean, how does that stand? Is that pretty high for
I think it's pretty high. I think it's high. We're fortunate because we actually serve the consumer to the large enterprise. 20% of our bookings plan has been e-commerce, web-driven set of numbers. Half is kind of mid-market companies, and the rest is global or large enterprises. So the texture of those leads are all different. And in fact, to be real specific, I only have capacity to get through 125,000 leads a quarter. So using technology to sort through those and being really smart about predictive technologies to actually figure out which ones to go after and which ones to sort of let settle at the bottom.
So that's the number.
The only way we can survive.
So that first number is the number you could go through without any technologies to help you parse through it. Okay.
No, actually, period. I only have, I will absolutely not get to 10,000 leads this quarter. Okay. So I have to be able to make sure that I'm being smart about the prioritization of what we're going after.
And just throwing a lot out without even looking at it. Right? So I'm going to take a step back and just ask you how you characterize, now that you've been there for a little more than a year, how would you characterize the return on investment in the marketing tech strategy that you guys have put in place?
So just for the error of my sins, I'm now running sales operations, not just quota-carrying sales. And I'm a very close partner with our marketing demand gen VP, Megan Eisenberg, who would be here if you just hadn't had a baby. We're almost interchangeable, which sort of tells you something about how we communicate. And for us, the only metric that counts that we both hold jointly is pipeline growth. So we measure that. And today we use Eloqua in marketing and Salesforce as our system of record for sales. So it's what opportunities we create through the lead pass in the Salesforce that we measure to understand where we are, and then we look at the conversion rates of those and what closes. But what's interesting is that, think about the lines of business we're in. So some of those pipeline programs influence an e-commerce purchase or a trial freemium process. Some affect an inbound-driven, what I call corporate sales motion, where the salesperson is a salesperson quoted, but they're on the phone, and they're largely being handed inbound opportunities to work based on the demand gen engine we built. And then we even have large customers where there's still people doing research that we can pick up and add data to and say, hey, I know you work in UBS or Merrill Lynch, just so you know, this guy's been on the website, he's done this analysis. So it's different in the lane that you're in, but we've seen a lot of direct sales growth in e-commerce, sales growth in sort of trial creation and conversion. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Actually, some cool stuff on harvesting freemium. And a lot of half our plan is the inbound-driven sales guy, and there's been a tremendous impact on the leads and the quality of the leads that we pass to them.
Great. So you're growing, I think you said, 100% a year?
More or less, yeah.
So revenue a year?
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit how, with that growth, how do you keep up with the technology that's out there? Right. So I mean, you made some bets. You have the CRM. You come in with these, fairly established legacy systems that are already operating in the company, right? So Eloqua, I think, is your marketing automation.
Correct.
How do you stay up with all the technology that's that's out there with such rapid growth?
So it's an interesting transition, right? Our marketing organization, we have a CMO, and he has a VP of demand gen.
Yeah.
And Megan Eisenberg's demand gen VP, she has a director of marketing technology. And when she and her team started 2 years ago, we had Salesforce and Eloqua, that was it. And now we have 15 different technologies deployed, either directly plugged into one of those two tools or around it. We use Influitive to do campaign stuff. We're using Lattice Engines to do lead scoring, Demandbase to do augmentation and data analysis. So it's amazing how many components that are there. And literally, in some ways, and I don't repeat this, we have a shadow IT team, because it takes that level of expertise to build those systems out and to connect them.
So now, since you span both B2B and B2C, I would imagine that poses a challenge when it comes to targeting the right prospects. Can you talk a little bit about how you do that, how you segment audiences?
Yeah.
Maybe you take us through your learning process for the audience out there. What I imagine a lot of folks are going through that procedure, right?
Great question. So on the Eloqua side, we have about 20 different personas defined. We have a ton of different campaigns that we run. But when we looked at kind of the scoring model, we started with one scoring model, which was modeled using actually the stuff from Lattice Engines, going back, doing regression analysis and the data on what we had in Salesforce, what deals closed, what deals didn't. And we learned that clearly sort of high-tech companies, people that had used SaaS applications, that were using other SaaS applications, that had a certain set of characteristics on their website, all data that Lattice Engines can sort of meld together, had a really high profile for purchasing. So we set that program up, and we ran that as the lead scoring component, and set some baselines, and then realized that, and I don't know how much you know about DocuSign in general, but we're about 10 years old, and we started really as a solution in real estate. So our founder, Tom Gonzer, felt bad that his wife had all the paperwork and created DocuSign to help her job, make it a little easier for her.
Yeah.
In fact, we're a verb in real estate, and we still have a large market share there. And with this model, none of the leads coming from real estate seem to be popping up. We actually found they're mutually exclusive. So real estate companies, by and large, don't use SaaS apps, don't have the same website characteristics. They're more graphic-centric than they are sort of JavaScript or more technically enabled. And so we had to create a second model to score out those components. And what we found is actually those leads that had the real estate characteristics had a higher conversion rate than the corporate rate, but we were dropping them when we were just a single model.
Interesting.
So it's important to know your business enough to build out the right set of attributes and multiple set of attributes so you don't actually block out good leads because you're actually stepping on them and not separating them the right way.
Yeah. I apologize. Sometimes I get so deep into this, I just assume everyone knows what DocuSign is. Get a show of hands. Who's heard of or knows what DocuSign does? Okay, so we probably don't need to go into too much depth about what you do, but you are differentiated from EcoSign and some others because you're actually doing e-signatures and transactions more than just signatures. You're going across all digital transactions, right? Can you talk a little bit about that product development?
Our sort of tagline, if you will, is keep business digital.
Yeah.
And so the signature is a fundamental experience in what we do. You need to have a rock solid product that anybody can sign anywhere at any time, and that's the hallmark of how we built the business up from the beginning. Yeah. But what we found is that what's almost more interesting is probably an overstatement, but what's very interesting is what happens with the transaction downstream. So think of a very simple sales order. If I'm in Salesforce and I hit a button and the document goes out with DocuSign and gets signed, that's great. It's better than me having to fax it. But what's really great is, in fact, Salesforce themselves does this today using our technology. When you DocuSign your Salesforce